Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I know it sounds really funny. I'm being silly. I am excited today. I'm really excited to have my guest Valerie here. Valerie, thank you so much for being here and spending your morning. Spending your morning with me. I can't wait to hear more about your story. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, Valerie. This is a rarity, but you're going to tell them. Where in the world are you coming from? I'm going to say why it's a rarity, but go ahead and tell.
So I am located in Northern California, about an hour north of San Francisco, a little suburb most people don't hear, so I just usually say near San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're in the same state.
So yeah, I was going to say the rarity is that we're both on the West Coast today.
Yeah.
Usually it's not, it's very rare that I have a guest on the West Coast. So I'm really happy that we're on the same time zone.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you're north of me, quite a few hours north of me, but
yeah.
All right. So have you always been in that town, city? We don't really have towns around here.
Yeah, I moved around a little bit. I was actually born in Louisiana. My dad's side of the family is from there, but my mom moved us to California when I was about 4. So I grew up in California, mostly Northern California. When I went to nursing school, I did move down to the Bay Area and lived in Oakland and around the Bay to go to my program, but I moved back up to buy a house because it was a little bit more affordable up here. So
yeah, right. Down by the city, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've always, well, since your childhood, you've been up in Northern California. And you mentioned that you went to nursing school up there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you went to nursing school because you would be here. Where did you go to nursing school? I always ask this question because there is this like 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Whether you went to nursing school right out of high school or whether you took a different path. So what was that like for you?
So I actually took a different path. When I was in high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And it's really funny because I was always really squeamish when I was little, but I was always really into science and I wanted to do something that was challenging and helping people. I come from a family with other scientists in it. My mom is a chemist. And I took some tests at the junior college to see what I would be good at. And all of them said that I should be a nurse. So I thought about it and thought, well, maybe I should do something else to see how I would like dealing with patients and working with people and make sure that I'm not going to pass out when I see blood or something like that.
Yeah,
so
right.
I talked to some other people in the field. I had some friends that were in EMS at the time. And my next door neighbor was a paramedic. So I was like, I'm really squeamish. Do you think it's something I can get over? And they were like, yeah, you just have to face it. So I did, and I was okay. And I was kind of torn between EMT and CNA to start getting some patient care experience. But I liked the idea of being in the field. And I actually was on a drive with a friend out to the beach, and we saw this motorcycle accident. And it was out in the middle of nowhere. It was out by Bodega. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but
the desert, right? Is that?
No, it's right by the coast. It's Alfred Hitchcock filmed the birds.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's a terrible motorcycle accident. No one's on scene. My friend is an EMT, jumps out, holds C-spine. The helicopter lands. They stabilize this person in the ditch, get an IV going, put him on backboard, get him loaded into the helicopter, and took care of him. And I thought that was so fascinating how they took something that was so scary and seemed so unmanageable to a layperson, and they took care of it. They had a system that they followed, and I loved that. So I went to EMT school and did that for 8 years while I did my nursing prereq and tried to put myself through school. I didn't really have help from like family or anything to get through school and everything.
Yeah.
So, never.
Wow, I love that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's not very common. I think I might have had one other guest that may have taken that route before, but it's not very common to have that EMT experience beforehand, but it's so incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Obviously. So you knew once you went through EMT school and you started working, you knew your trajectory was going to be nursing, or was there a part of you that just wanted to stay in that? What did that?
Yeah, part of me did want to stay in that, but just for career longevity and the pay is also significantly higher for nursing. So
I get
wanted to think about, the big picture. But of course, I did consider becoming a paramedic through that time, but I would have had to do an unpaid internship and go through the licensure and everything. And even challenging paramedic was something that I thought about, but life took a different path.
I
didn't end up doing that. And I instead, once I finished nursing school, I was hired straight into ICU as a new grad and started doing, it was a neuro, trauma, and medical ICU that was combined. And it was in a very busy county. So we got to see a lot of different types of very acute patients. So I got my adrenaline there. Even though it was hard at first being cooped up in one floor, one hospital floor after being out in the field for so long, because I loved driving around and responding to 911 calls, and it's a lot of fun.
You have the adrenaline bug, the nursing adrenaline bug. Yeah, I get that. And I know, I totally understand why you chose the path. Yeah. I know I can relate to that in the fact that I went to tech school. Thankfully, I'd already had my bachelor's degree, but I went to tech school and I loved working as a tech. But I was like, how am I going to pay my rent and do the things that I want to do and, all of those things. So that's really at the time why I went to nursing school as well. I was like, how do I create and it only made sense. I literally needed like one prereq to go to nursing school. Yeah. But I understand you would have loved to just stay there, and make a lot of money. Right. Yeah. Okay, so where did you end up going to nursing school?
So California is really competitive, as you probably know, to get into nursing school. So I applied to like 7 or 8 different programs a couple of years in a row. And I finally got into the community college, Chabot College in Hayward, through their lottery. And I was like one of the backup people on the lottery list, and I got in, so I took it. Even though
I can relate to that too. That's exactly the route I took. It was a community college. It was lottery system. Yep. I got in thankfully on the first try, but very competitive. And at that time there were, I think there were less programs as well, less options. So you were really stuck with, either applying a bunch of times or just, crossing your fingers that you would get in by lottery.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, I don't know how it is down in Southern California, but I know that up here, the community colleges programs, they're very clinically based, which is great, but they're also very cutthroat once you're in the program. So if you get below a certain grade for any one exam, even if it's the last exam, they kick you out. So it was very like high pressure. And then I went back and got my BSN and my credentials and stuff like that.
Right. So, okay. So you went to nursing school, and then were you offered, you said you were offered a job right away in ICU. No. That's really amazing.
Well, it was actually a year later, which is crazy because it was really competitive at that time.
Okay.
It was 2013 when I graduated. And even though I was going to ERs all over the peninsula, every ER I would go in and be like, hey, do you guys have a new grad program? And they would just kind of laugh at me and be like, you're crazy. So I actually got in because my preceptorship was in ICU at this hospital in Castro Valley over near Oakland. It's a level 2 trauma center. And my preceptor called me when they got a new grad program up and running, and I was able to get in. Also very competitive, but very excited. Did my
Wow. That's
3-month program. Yeah.
yeah.
So once you
That's
get in, you have to do 3 months of training, and then you have to do a whole like module the ECHO program through the AACN and work with a preceptor for 3 months and do classes and stuff like that. So it was really intensive.
So it was a total of 3 months, or was it 3 months and then another 3 months, or?
It was 3 months total training, but I was working shifts with the preceptor and doing didactic at the same time.
Right. Oh,
But
I see.
probably
That's
about a year before I felt comfortable.
Sure. That's interesting because when I finished, there were no new grad programs. They didn't exist. You just you were lucky to be hired on. Maybe you had a great relationship with your preceptors and they liked you, and they took you under your wing. So the new grad program is kind of a new thing. And I only know the OR as far as new grad programs, and the OR new grad program that I'm familiar with is an entire year long. So that's interesting that I feel like that's really short.
Yeah.
A short time frame for you. And so when you say it took you a year to really feel comfortable, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But in order to get into that program, I know just how competitive. I mean, it's like you're really fighting to get in. Not only are you fighting to get into nursing school, you're fighting to get a new grade. You're fighting to get into a place, and then going through that program, it's like by the time you're working, you feel like you did hit the lottery because
exactly.
it's so hard. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Did you when you were going to nursing school, did you want to go into critical care, or were you just like, I will take whatever I can get?
I knew that I wanted to go into ER or labor and delivery or one of the critical care areas, just because I knew how to take care of complex trauma patients.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure I wasn't bored, just because I know how my personality is, and I wanted to make sure that I was helping people in like the most critical moments.
Sure.
Because that's where I really just enjoy it the most. And really enjoy being there for people when they need it the most.
Right.
So they ended up placing me in ICU. I'm not sure what their thought process was, but I actually liked it because in the ER and in emergency medicine, not every patient is the sickest patient. You get really sick patients maybe 10 to 15% of the time.
Right.
Emergencies are very subjective.
Right.
But ICU, everyone is critically ill. So I really ended up liking that more.
Right. Wow.
And
so how long in that department?
So I stayed at that hospital for about 2 years, and then we moved. We came up to the North Bay and bought our house here. So I transferred to another trauma center in the ICU, and then I ended up getting hired at Kaiser, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, but they paid a little bit more. So I went to Kaiser. I stayed in ICU my whole career. Doing, different types of ICUs, different sizes of ICUs.
Sure.
Some of them had different specialties. But I just really love critical care.
Yeah, I commend you. For me, it was just, I think it was too complicated for me. I don't know. It was, IVs and keeping track. For me, it was just not, it was too complicated for me. But you definitely took the path that my daughter would like to take. She's getting ready to go to nursing school. She wants to go to CRNA school. So it's like getting that first job in ICU is going to be challenging. Okay. You'd be a great OR nurse, kid. No, mom, this is what I want to do. Okay. Well, then.
Good for her.
Good for you. Yeah, exactly. You're way smarter than I am anyway. So perfect.
One of my good friends just finished her CRNA program.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. Again, it's something I'm just not that, pharmacology. This is why I'm an OR nurse, all the things that other people do.
Yeah.
All right. So you are tried and true ICU, all different versions of ICU.
Yeah.
And you love it. Did you ever go into, I'm sure you probably were a preceptor at some point or education?
Definitely. Yeah, I love doing that. I had the trauma center that I worked at in Napa. They had a program where we would take new grad nurses, and they had a transition of practice program that was similar in some ways to the preceptorship program that I did as a new grad when I was hired. So they did the echo modules, and I precepted them one-on-one for 3 months so they could get up to speed and learn how to be a safe ICU nurse. And I did that for 2 students, so like 6 solid months of having someone under my wing.
Right.
So I did that, and I've trained, new people that come in. If they just need a couple of days of orientation, I've helped with that too.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you enjoy that, the education, the preceptor?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, it's not surprising. I think all of us legal nurses enjoy a bit of that. Otherwise, it's like understand because you have this understanding of standard of care, and you take it seriously, and
absolutely
you want to be able to pass that information along to nurses, right?
And I felt it was really important to make sure that a good culture was fostered in these new grads, because I think we all know that nurses eat their young kind of culture, and I wanted to make sure that they had a preceptor that was supportive and kind and would answer their questions and not make them feel bad, because when I am working a code or I'm in an emergency, I want someone that's not going to be second guessing themselves. I want someone that's confident and calm and able to think through complex problems on the fly.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that I was always like this nice, supportive preceptor.
Yeah, because you just never know, if you're not nice, I mean, they just may not be as helpful, and they may not have the knowledge and skill, because nobody's, they didn't spend the time. You didn't spend the time teaching them,
Yeah, I never understood the toxic kind of culture within nursing, because we're all there for the same reason.
I agree.
And I think that it is a team sport. If you want to take care of patients and give high quality care, you have to be able to work together and communicate in an effective way.
I agree. Nobody wins when it's eating your young kind of thing. I've watched that over time, and I never really understood that either, whether it's like a territorial thing or in the old days. I think in the OR it might have been a little bit of that, like, this is my surgeon, I only do his cases, you can't do, that kind of thing. And that used to happen. I don't do that anymore, but
that's good.
What I think I am seeing these days is more and more of coming together and less nurses eat your young kind of thing. I think it appears that way. I don't hear as many stories. Maybe that's it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe COVID kind of did a little bit of that too, where we all kind of bonded together because it was so traumatic for all of us.
So traumatic. Yeah.
Right? It really, there are people that left the profession, but I think that maybe it brought us as nurses closer, because we all went through it together in different ways, different capacities, but we were all hit by it very much so.
Yeah.
So I think that we all have, a little bit of empathy and compassion for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no point in being negative.
Exactly.
Okay. So did you stay at Kaiser? And then, I think for those on the West Coast understand this, Kaiser's not everywhere, but I do know that once you go to Kaiser, usually you don't leave.
Usually, unless you can build up your legal nurse business enough to have support within your household.
Right.
But I worked within ICU through 2 years of COVID. Got the vaccine the second it came out, but I got pregnant with my second daughter, and I am not a cheerful, healthy pregnant person. I get very sick, and I was very worried about my baby, just because as a nurse, you hear all the stories about COVID and how it affected patients within different specialties, including labor and delivery. And knowing that in the ICU, when a patient's on a ventilator and the door's closed, the ventilator aerosolizes the virus into the air. So you're essentially just in a room with COVID being sprayed into the air. And I didn't feel like it was reasonable for me to put my health at risk with my baby. Right. I went and worked in the COVID vaccine clinic, where I was the nurse observer. So I would basically just watch
the 15
all the people getting vaccines. and no one ever had any reactions. So it was a very good sick pregnant person job.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I worked in outpatient GI for a little bit. I was just very bored. It was like, you guys are giving the same meds every day, same doses.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing some extra education. I got my board certification in ICU, my PCRN, which I'd been putting off for a while, but decided to just do it and finish my BSN. Started looking at work from home options and started doing some freelance writing for nurses.
Okay.
Educational content. Like I really liked writing test questions for like text prep. So I did a bunch of that for some different textbooks. But then I found within the freelance like websites that I was on, people would try to lowball you really badly. So they would ask you to write an article and they'd be like, we'll pay you $10. I'm like, no, sorry. So found legal nursing and never really looked
I kind of want to, so before we go into that, because obviously I want to hear that. I want to hear that story. The writing for nursing and, test questions, I've always heard people do. How did you find that? Out of my own curiosity.
Yeah. So I made an account on Upwork. It's like it's a freelance website, just like Fiverr. And
so people sought you out to write so you being a nurse and being in a certain specialty, they sought you out to write for them.
Yeah, and you can apply for different jobs that you see, and then you write your little cover letter and put examples of work that you've done, and they can hire you to like another job. So it was pretty fun.
Interesting. Yeah. You're the first person I've actually had this conversation about, so I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm glad that you shared that. In case you want a side gig, that's how you do it. I mean, okay, so naturally you like to write and you discovered legal nursing. So were you searching? You were searching for something. It wasn't like it was someone that you knew that told you about it. Is that how it came about, or
no? I just kind of stumbled across it in all my late night online searches, and I came across a legal nurse that mentioned that she was doing precepting and mentoring for legal nursing in the Bay Area. And I reached out to her because I just really liked how she came across. She came across like a real person that was approachable. And I reached out to her and asked if she was mentoring. And she said, no, but I'm hiring because she has a company that she does criminal defense work for.
Right.
Primarily as a legal nurse, like forensic nurse expert work. So I was like, I don't have any experience. I don't know if you want to hire me.
Right.
So she liked my experience and she wanted to interview me. So reviewed a case for her and she's like, you're hired. So that was it. And I've been working for her ever since. And then I took my legal nurse certification through UC Long Beach online at the same time. And I got my first ICU expert case about a month later after I posted my information on the AACN website and met this wonderful, nicest person I've ever met, legal nurse that had me work on this ICU expert case for this very experienced trial attorney in Utah. And he wasn't even sure if it was a case. And I took one look at it. I was like, this is clearly a breach in the standard of care. Gave him all the reasons why. And they ended up having a good outcome because of it.
Yeah.
It was a great
What a great stumble upon journey. I love it. This is honestly, this is one of the things why I love doing this podcast is because everybody's story is different. Everybody's journey is, we're all nurses, but everybody's story and journey is totally different in how we came about it, what our, previous experience was like, and then how we started, you know, and in your case that, I love that. And the fact that she took you under her wings because you probably caught her on the right day. Right. And she was exactly who you were looking for and could spend the time with you. So how long ago was that?
That was in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, like end of 2021.
Yeah, so you've been working with her, you've been doing expert work, and you have been doing your own independent work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you doing that full time?
Yeah.
So you're home doing that full time,
Yep.
loving it, obviously.
Yeah.
And so once you started working full time for yourself, I always like to talk about marketing or, how we gain attorney clients. Because
Mhm.
again, everybody's story is different as well.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you?
For me, that's something that I still struggle with because I have never had any training in business or marketing. So I've kind of been learning everything as I go. I had no idea what I was getting myself into with this entrepreneurship journey,
Yep.
even though I love everything about it for the most
Mhm.
part. It definitely, looking back on my life, I realized that this is where I probably should have been all along. Um, but um, yeah,
So
it
it's
just
still,
marketing is tricky. Like I know that some people LinkedIn really works for them, but I find it really hard to
Mhm.
post authentically on LinkedIn. I gain most of my business from referrals.
Mhm.
Just having a solid work product. My attorney client recently referred me to another one of his clients in the same
Yeah.
city, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Just don't leave me." I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, so I know I'm doing a good job." Well,
Right.
that firm gave me some cases, and just
Yeah.
through referrals has been my main.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that I think in being in the entrepreneur space for a long time and marketing things, I think that referral based clients are really the pinnacle. They're
Yeah,
like the cream of the crop. Those are the ones you want anyways. You don't want to have to market,
right.
really. You
Exactly.
want your business to be referrals.
Exactly.
So you're doing things right. Like you're not working on it. You're actually doing things amazing because I think everybody probably would love to have a referral based business
Yeah.
because it just shows, like you said, it shows you how good your work is. And a lot of times I think in this profession, we don't get that feedback. I
Yeah.
know in the early podcast episodes, I have gotten much more feedback since then. But in the early podcast episodes, I would say I made it kind of a joke because I would submit something, be paid, and I couldn't get any feedback from
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
And so you just like, okay, well, I'm going to assume that I did all right. I'm going to assume.
Yeah.
So having the referrals clearly is, gratification saying, okay,
Exactly.
you are doing amazing things. So I commend you for having that. And, the LinkedIn thing I think it's hit or I think everybody has their own path, right?
Yeah.
Yours is a referral
Absolutely.
base. Guess
Yeah.
what? How do I market? I'm super successful in my referral based business.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
And I think it just goes to show that marketing is not a one size fits all
yeah. Yeah.
thing. I think you just have to figure out what works for you. And,
Absolutely.
some people swear by cold calling or social media. And I think I
Yeah.
do better just like face to face, proving my worth, talking about topics that I'm interested in, like
Right.
complex medical topics or something like that, because I
Right.
feel like that's where I
Right.
enjoy education and I know that I can offer value to
Right.
attorney clients. And I feel like
Right.
attorneys and nurses work so well together because we're both advocating for people. We
Mm-hmm.
both, are intellectual and we're trying to understand the same information. And I really enjoy working with attorneys when I can get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm glad you said that too. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that everybody um it's whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Whatever you're comfortable with. And like you said, some people are comfortable with in-person networking and going to events, or some people are, you know, have mastered having a booth, and some people have mastered email marketing and some people have mastered LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, it's just really okay because I think too, a lot of, and I hear this from people that listen to the podcast, that they don't give themselves credit for what they have already done. Oh, I must be doing it wrong, or oh, I need to try LinkedIn. Oh, I need to because everybody else is doing it, or you hear people successful on LinkedIn and that's how they got all their clients. So I must have to do that.
Right.
And you just simply gave them permission to say, you know what, just try them all, right? Or like you said, if it happens to be where you have an attorney client you work with and then you get another referral, just stick with that. You're good, and then if you have the time, dip your toe in something else. But if you're not successful yet, I don't know what that means, but because we're all very hard on ourselves. If you're not successful yet, dipping your toes in many things, and then finding what you enjoy. Like, you enjoy talking to the attorneys, you enjoy having those conversations. That's where you're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I think for everybody listening, just do what feels right to you.
Yeah. Don't compare yourself to everybody.
No.
Do I need to hear?
No. Exactly. And if you want to buck the system and start a podcast.
Yes, I love that.
That's like, I don't know, sounds like a good idea. I think I'll do it. And then here we are. Perfect. So, dude, take your own path.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that I've had a chance to work with you, and you are amazing to work with. And that kind of leads me into the next question. I know that you clearly work with subcontractors. Is that something that you had always looked at wanting to do, or you had just become busy enough to need to do that? I don't think I've actually had this conversation with many people, so I'm curious on the subcontractor conversation when you've used other people to help you.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed working with you too, and I tend to use subcontractors and work with subcontractors that have specialties that are different than mine, but have similar qualities to me, where they have a lot of attention to detail. They're good communicators, they're open-minded, and they're very skilled in their specialty.
Right.
So like a pediatric birth injury nurse, or like you have operating room experience, or someone who does wound care. Because I know that just like within the hospital, we all have different skill sets. And I really believe that no two legal nurses and no nurses know all the same things, and we can't know all the same things. Mm-hmm. And I feel it's part of collaboration. If I have a merit review that has a heavy component that's pediatric, I don't want to give an opinion that I feel is wrong. So I want to make sure that my client is getting the best quality work possible.
Right.
And I feel like that's when I work with subcontractors, because I think like most legal nurses in the early years, my work ebbs and flows like everyone. So I just have like my little tight group, and I saw your post with all your OR certs. I'm like,
it was a really good fit. It was like, okay, this is something that I know very well.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you trusting me in that.
Of course. Yeah, it was a pleasure to work with you.
So I have a question for you then regarding subcontracting. I mean, it just happened to be that we had this conversation and it all worked out. But I know that there are a lot of listeners who are just starting out and they want to subcontract. What advice would you give them in, putting themselves out there to be available? Because again, we all have our specialties. So they're clearly amazing at whatever their specialty is and would like to break into this as being a subcontractor. What advice would you give them?
I think just understanding what your scope is and what your understanding is of just overall nursing processes and whatever your specialty is, because of course most cases you can kind of understand from just basic nursing knowledge standpoint. I think just having a really solid CV or resume, having a really solid work product, and just networking, posting your information on the AALMC. I use a couple other of the listservs, and I know that they always post subcontracting opportunities, and just having everything ready to go. Mm-hmm. So when someone does post an opportunity, that you're available, send everything to them, you follow up with them, and just be easy to work with, and just be communicative, be open-minded, be open to feedback.
Right.
Don't take 20 hours to do something that should take 5.
Right.
Because I know that like we are all learning. I know that I was guilty of that early on.
Sure.
yeah, just having that beginner's mindset always.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of people that are
Yeah.
willing to do that. But I
Yeah.
think that there is kind of this way to do it, right? It's
Yeah.
really, it's almost like you're marketing yourself and being top of mind, because there are so many, and it's really hard to keep track of what everyone's specialty is, you
Oh,
know?
sure. Yeah.
And so I think that because I'm starting to observe this a little bit more, because I like you, like I want to help people find their person, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and I think being top of mind in your specialty is really key, because
Yeah.
you could I know that I did this post on LinkedIn a while back that I highlighted, all my past guests and all their specialties, and
Mhm.
and I got an influx of CVs and messages, and I, for the life of me, can't remember whose specialty is what, right?
Yeah.
So that's great, and I have them and I save them. So when
Yeah.
the time comes, I can look them up.
Same.
But I think that, and you tell me if you agree with this. I don't know. We're just having this conversation because that's what we're doing here. You tell me if you agree with this. If you're showing up consistently, right, as that person with that specialty, that's how you'll be remembered.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, I think you're completely right. I think just engaging with maybe the same group of people regularly, because I know that I have my little group of legal nurses that I've known for a long time, that if I see an opportunity that's a good fit for them, I'll send it to them if they don't see it in time, and vice versa.
Right.
So I think that is really important too. Just networking is really powerful. And
yeah, I think,
there's
okay.
a
So
lot
I
of
think
reasons
that
for
you
that.
touched on a really good point. And so, and this is, this is where I get kind of geeky and nerdy, because I love marketing and the entrepreneur stuff. So networking, we
Mhm.
take networking, right? And for someone that's a nurse that doesn't have a background in marketing or entrepreneurship or networking, maybe they don't understand what network. Okay, that's fine. You're telling me to network, but how do I network, right? So what you said, I think, is very valuable, is that you find a small group of people that you just have each other's back.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, if something pops, they're your eyes and ears. And I can say the same thing for me. I've managed to fall into a small group of people, and so we tend to be eyes and ears for things that come up,
Mhm.
versus you doing all the work.
Yeah.
If you see an OR case, or I see an ICU case, then I know that I've got your back, and I'm going to send those to you.
Yeah.
And that way you're not marketing yourself to everyone, because it's really impossible to.
Yeah.
It's not, nobody's going to remember. We would love to remember you, but
Right.
there are a lot of us.
Yeah.
So you have your small group of people. That in itself is networking. So um, finding that little group of people. So how would you say, what's the best advice you would say to find that? Okay, I decided to do this, but I do not know anybody in this business. How do I find a small group of people like you did?
I don't know. I think just finding people that you just vibe with, people that you like, for lack of a better word, people that you can communicate easily with, people that you like their content. If you see something that you like,
Yeah.
engage with
Yeah.
it. If you have a question on a case or marketing, just be like, hey, can I run something by you? And just having that person that you can have an easy conversation with,
Yeah.
I think is really valuable. And I think over time, those people become your group.
Yeah. 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 I agree. Um, I I think, again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, where this is a brainstorming session / podcast episode. Um, so I talk about, and this works really well on LinkedIn, is the magic happens in the conversation, like in the comments, in the conversations, in the comments. And I think that because most people that listen to this are in these legal nurse communities, right? In these Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. And I think that having conversations in the comments is really valuable. And I don't think that people do it, right? Yeah. So comments happen all the time, but there may be something that you think, oh, that's really interesting. Reach out to that person, have a conversation in that comment. And that I've seen work really, really well. Not necessarily in this profession, but just in general. It's like being at a party, right? And you're wandering around the cocktail party, and that little comment section is the little table that you just walk up to, and you start engaging in the conversation. And then guess what? There's your little group. Everybody remembers you because they only have to remember this small little group. And so, I don't know. I mean, does that sound like it would be valuable to someone?
Yeah, that and just offering help. You know what I mean? I feel like legal nurses are good at networking with each other. And I think that, just offering up help or brainstorming. Hey, if you ever have an ICU case you have a question on, or EMS question, you have to just reach out to me, and just offering that help. And I think just showing.
Yeah. And I think that that's actually how we connected. It was that it was just like a simple question. You're like, hey, I think I have a question. And then I answered the question, and then you're like, maybe you can help me out with this one. So right there, it's just exactly how it is. It's just being available to help and answer those questions, and not just being available to help. It's like really helping. Yeah, like it's nothing attached to it. Yeah, nothing attached. Give me a call and I will help you through this. There's nothing attached to this. Yeah, and I think that, like you said, I think that that's valuable, and it really goes along with the whole not eating your young. Like we're all in this together. Everybody wins.
Exactly. There are plenty of attorneys, plenty of cases out there. I think that just having that mindset too, of that abundance kind of mindset, is helpful.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate this conversation. I love hearing your story. And now that everybody knows, where you started and how you're here. And I'm sure that you will have people reach out to you that have been touched by your story and understand or relate to it, and your kindness and, your abundance attitude. So I'm sure that you will get plenty of messages, and people, please, message Valerie and say hello. And on that note, where can the people listening to this find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, have a little business Instagram, have my website at Bridgepoint LNC. So any of those places, DMs on LinkedIn, a good place to start. Yeah.
Okay. And all the links will all be in the show notes as well, so they can easily find you. Well, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to hearing what everybody says about this episode. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting Podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.